So that is the song by Nickelback, Rockstar. And we just came off doing a live pod last week. And guys, I feel like rock stars, although I will say none of us are in the category where we'll all stay skinny because we just won't eat part. So
I'll tell you, that song has taken on entirely new meaning for me now. I understand what Nickelback must go through. I get it.
Right.
No,
I have trouble walking around town this week. I don't know about you guys.
Oh yeah.
It's
impossible.
I got autograph stickers all over Matthews.
Yeah. It's really kind of frustrating just trying to go to the store and just pick up a couple things, grocery items, and having to be stopped, meet your fans, and kind of talk a little bit. Yeah.
The funny thing is, I hadn't watched a music video in years because they just don't come on anymore. And then I saw the video for Nickelback song, and there's so many people that make a cameo in it. So Wayne Gretzky's in it, and Gene Simmons is in it, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. and just Fred Durst. It's a bunch of people talking about just the fame and fortune and everything else. So it's pretty interesting. So we are the three Angry Giant fans and a Jet fan. It's your host Scott, Giant Mike, Cardone, and Angry Jet fan Novak. And we had a blast last week doing a live show at the Carolina Beer Temple in Matthews, North Carolina. Wonderful turnout for our listeners, and guys, just a ton of fun. So I think we're going to try and do this every preseason. Preseason's a little bit of a silly season, and it was just a fun time being out there drinking beers, hanging with the crowd, answering questions, and just bantering back and forth. And it wasn't just Giant fans.
Yeah, we didn't know how it was going to turn out, and I thought it turned out great. We had the DJ, good questions, trivia, and I just want really quickly, because we didn't really acknowledge him, because I think we were so wrapped up in what we were doing. But I want to give a shout out to my friend Ted, who did the intros for the four of us. And I thought he did a good job writing it up and calling us out. He's got a real knack for that. I thought he did a great job. So kudos, Ted.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't even really hear them. I'm so jacked up. I wasn't even really listening. And when I heard the playback, I was like, that was awesome.
Yeah, he did a great job, man. Great, just awesome. It was just well done. Yeah, I wanted to say thanks to everybody involved. Our DJ, Ted, I was definitely going to mention him. So glad you brought that up, Novak. And want to thank again the Carolina Beer Temple and all our friends that showed up. It was just great. We had a lot of fun doing it. So we definitely have to run that back somehow. Somewhere, maybe we'll take this on a tour somewhere and grab another spot somewhere. So, but we're gonna run that back. That was just too much fun. So thanks to everyone that showed up and supported us.
So if you do go to our website, angryfootballfans.com, I uploaded the latest photos and video and audio of those podcasts. The audio actually turned out pretty well. The video is interesting because by the end of the night when it's dark out, there's lights coming at you. It looked like a strobe light, like a little bit of disco dancing going on or something. But yeah,
there was no dancing.
Thank God.
There was a kid running around, I guess, going alcohol.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Got a future.
Yeah.
So let's give you a shout out before we get into all the preview of week one and a lot of the news that we saw just even today. So hello, Holyoke, Massachusetts, population 38,247. It is a suburb of Springfield. And in the late 1800s, Holyoke produced 80% of the writing paper used in the U.S. and was the largest paper, silk, and alpaca mill in the U.S., which gave it the moniker the Paper City. It's also the birthplace of volleyball.
The Paper City? I could have sworn that was Scranton. I thought that was Scranton, PA. Dunder Mifflin. No?
You guys ever been near a paper plant? Have you ever actually been anywhere? That town must stink. Oh my God, those! I'm sorry, whoever's chiming in from Holyoke, get out of there, man. There's a paper plant up in the mountains in this little town we drive through, and it's like, roll up the windows. What is that smell? What is it about paper, by the way, that would make it smell when you're making it? Right.
It's like they use sulfur or something. Because if you drive down to like Florida, you pass through Georgia and there's paper mills there, and it's like, God, what's going on here?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just paper. I mean,
Yeah. Usually they stink and are polluted after whatever's written down on them as far as football predictions and stuff. Yeah. That was lame.
Cardone, I laughed listening to the some of the bits you did last week during the live pod, because you would just go off on a tangent and you'd be like, "Oh, what was I? What was the question?"
I got swept up with the got swept up with the vibe
about, like,
and
Ramapo Roadrunners. They were like, "Oh, where was I?"
Yeah,
get a Ramapo Roadrunner fan there.
There was. Yeah,
and we actually did have a couple of people that were there that saw it on TV or the advertisement.
Yeah,
but you asked that question, and apparently 2 people raised their hands and said, "Yeah, we saw."
Yeah, that saw it on the So I guess we got to thank Spectrum Cable News Network also.
How they got that information, I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't either. That's awesome.
So final rosters have come out. There's been some manipulation between the time that we went on the air last week and now. We really didn't talk about the final rosters last week because we knew there'd be cuts and people signed and re-signed and put to the practice squad. And probably the biggest move the Giants made was they brought Adoree Jackson back at cornerback. Outside of that, no real notable moves. No one important has been put on IR. Practice squad members are a lot of the guys that they cut. So it's really good thing going into week 1. We don't have anyone that's out for the week. That's a starter.
That's good news. Yeah. Usually I feel like we're always shorthanded going into week 1 with somebody getting lost in the preseason, one of the games or practice or something. So, but it's funny. I was looking at the depth chart here this afternoon before we came on, and I still feel like you mentioned one of the practice squad. Well, you mentioned practice squad. I think Isaiah Hodgins was the only. Yeah. Hodgins was the only cut that I thought. Man, I thought he was. He's shown at least at times that he could be, a decent receiver and a slot guy or whatever. And I'm looking at, I still feel like we're really thin at receiver. I'm still worried about that. I mean, we know about Jones and, the offensive line and what they got to do, but I still feel like the receiving core, we got some young guys. Obviously, Neighbors, he's going to get a lot of attention, I think, from defenses, but I feel like it just drops right off. Hyatt didn't show much. Wan'Dale Robinson, I don't know if I trust, and Darius Slayton, still don't know how he's hanging on. But
I think Wan'Dale's actually going to have a pretty big year in the slot. I think he's going to be shifty, getting some of those end arounds and everything else. But
I just feel like we're thin at receiver still, unless Neighbors is just a giant, that, comes out with a killer rookie year that I'm hoping for, but just we'll wait and see, of course.
Novak, any notable final roster additions or subtractions on the Jets? And when's Hassan Reddick going to show up?
Yeah. Really, there weren't any surprises as far as the roster is concerned. I think I pretty much could have predicted. There was no surprises. They did keep an extra defensive lineman, I think, because Reddick has not been signed. But today they made some. They adjusted some contracts, and they did a full contract for Michael Carter, our Nickelback, and so I think. So I think that's in preparation to get Reddick in camp. And to be honest, I really think that Trent Williams signing with the 49ers is expediting this because, I think they thought, well, if Trent Williams doesn't play for the 49ers, we can get away with not having Reddick against the 49ers on Monday night. Now I think you might see Reddick sign tomorrow is my guess. Now I could be wrong, but where there's smoke, there's fire. I think that he's going to get signed, and I really hope he does because that just makes that defense even that much better.
All it took for Williams to get signed in San Francisco was for a guy to get shot on the streets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad, Scott, that I just figured you were going to open that with and say, like, Mike, what did you think of the roster moves? Because I had no idea. Like, I had no idea. So I was going to have to give you the, the Kramer with the movie phone. Why don't you just tell me what they were? That kind of... But no, I did just look it over. And I'll tell you the thing about the Giants depth chart as it comes out now and as it looks right now, the best thing down there that looks to me is you got guys like Evan Neal and Azidu not in the starting position, still on the team, second and third team in those positions, which is where they belong. That's truly where they belong. Evan Neal, I still think might have a career in front of him, but he has not been a good starter for the last couple of years. And, I'm very, very cautiously optimistic about this offensive line.
Yeah. So this week, Giants and Vikings open up. Thank God, a 1:00 Sunday game. Although my daughter's moving apartments this weekend, and I'm going to be in Greenville helping her move. I just laid down the law and said there will be a moratorium between 1 and 4 of moving time if we're not done. But I am. The Giants are actually home underdogs in this game by 1.5 points, as the line is today, and I am really positive that the Giants are going to come out and do well. I think we're going to see Neighbors do well. I think we're going to see Jones play well. I think we're seeing a healthy team take it to the Vikings. I could be wrong, and I'm not going to do Novak's favorite line and say we always do well against Darnold, but I think we're going to be okay in this game. And what I'm looking for here is Devin Singletary, not only on the ground, but also in the passing game, not be too much of a drop off from Barkley. People don't realize Singletary's never averaged less than 4.3 yards per carry. And maybe he will behind this line, but this line looks much more improved. So I'll be looking at two things: the line and how that impacts the running and the pass protection. I'll also be looking at the third thing, I should say, too, the secondary, because the secondary has been such a question mark. But
yeah. I'll be looking in this game. Really, it'll interest me, and I think I said this at the opening of last year too, and all hell broke loose. But I'll be looking at how the Vikings play us. Are they going to do what most teams did to us last year, just blitz on 50% of the downs and figure that a blitz isn't really that risky because it gets home, and Jones is running for his life, or Tyrod Taylor or whoever it's back there last year. I'll be interested to see if the Giants or if the Vikings come out and play that style against us early. And if they do, I know I go back to 1 year ago, this podcast, and I said the same thing. If they do, we have got to hit them. We've got to make that hurt for them to blitz, because then week 1 with the new offensive line is on tape, and it changes the way all defenses play us.
We had a lot of plays against the Cowboys last year, didn't we? Week 1.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We look great. Yeah. We have got to, if teams are going to come out and blitz us, we've got to make them pay. Right now we're being defended, pretty much all of last year and all of last year. We're being defended as if our offensive line we're playing without an offensive line. And the problem with that is most teams welcome the blitz. The Giants couldn't handle the blitz. I keep talking like we're in present tense. So, Minnesota probably knows that. I think the defensive coordinators there probably understand that the Giants are going to be a little bit tougher to get to the passer on, but I still think there's a stigma that has become a truth in NFL circles that Daniel Jones can't handle the blitz, which, no one can handle the blitz behind a shitty offensive line. So we just got to hit something. Hitting something big early in this game would be huge. That could set the tone for the whole season.
That's almost a must, Mike. I think having a big play in there. So I want to make a note, because I wrote this down. Scott, you mentioned the Giants being an underdog this weekend. So Giants are they're only one of 2 teams dogged at home all weekend, because week 1, let's face it, guys, you kind of, the home team, you get the 3 points, right? Is that still hold true? Are we still? I mean, is it still the 3 points, right? Pretty much
Seems
for the home team. Yeah. So I think that still stands. So pretty pathetic, right? that the Giants are one of against a Sam Darnold led Minnesota Viking team, which I don't think the Vikings they're not expected to be that mediocre team at best all year. Week 1 is so weird, guys, right? You really don't know what to expect, especially me, guys. I'm always more pessimistic, I think, than the two of you guys coming out of the gate, especially Scott. Scott likes to be optimistic as anybody, which is probably good for my sanity. At least I have somebody to kind of like point to when I start calling that the game is over the first time we fall down, we fall behind 3-0. But I'm worried a couple things. Jones again coming back from the repaired torn ACL. That concerns me just in terms of his mobility and his ability to really stand in the pocket if there is some pressure and things like that. So Mike, you just hit the nail on the head. I mean, you just said Minnesota is going to be just licking their chops, I think, and sending a lot of blitz packages at this Giant offensive line, which is, for the most part, a brand new line. So we'll see. They're not yet a cohesive unit. If, whatever, we talk about that in terms of offensive line and all that. So I'm expecting Minnesota to just come barreling out at Jones and sending a lot of different blitzes. And we better be more prepared. The good news is, guys, it can't go any worse than that Dallas Cowboy opening night last year, right? It can't be any worse than that. Of course, Minnesota's not. It's not. I know we're not doing predictions until later, guys, but it's going to be. It's hard. I don't know. Week 1. We'll see. And in Minnesota, I do want to mention this too. I didn't know this until today. I was questioning almost their decision to go with Darnold for week 1, because if anybody saw film, Nick Mullins is their backup quarterback. Does anybody recall season 1 of the pod and Nick Mullins and him just going Revenge of the Nerds, lambda against us? He came in like a pack of nerds and just kicked our ass.
If you guys don't remember, we watched that game together.
Yeah, we did.
We were at Hickory Tavern watching that game.
That's
right. Yeah. I didn't know who Nick Mullins was by 2:30 that afternoon. I'm like, I'll tell you who he is. He's the guy who just kicked our ass. I thought he was the lead singer for Air Supply. You might have to go dust that one off from season 1. But I look at the depth chart. I'm like, Minnesota, like, Nick Mullins. Why the hell did they start them? I'd be terrified of that guy. We may have a chance to beat Darnold. I'd be terrified of Nick Mullins, but I had to sneak that one in there, Scott, just to see, just to get Nick Mullins' name on the pod another time. So we'll see.
So Novak, is Rodgers over under on 4 snaps here?
I tell you, I am not going to watch the 4th snap. I'm not. I'm walking out of the room. Yeah. I'm not going to watch it because I don't want to hear 5,000 freaking times that last year on his 4th snap, this is when he.
Oh yeah.
I'm walking out. I'm getting a beer. I'm not going to pay attention.
Just mute it.
I am. I'm going to mute it. I don't want to hear it. I want to talk about it. Whatever. This game's going to be. I think it's going to be a great Monday night game to open up. It's funny. I loved the Jets going into this game up until today because we all saw, and I'm not going to give my prediction. You might be surprised when I give it, but when Trent Williams signed, that is huge. We saw San Francisco last year go on a 3-game sort of funk, and coincidentally, it was the 3 games that Trent Williams was out. You can't tell me there's actually not a more important player for a team that's not a quarterback than Trent Williams is for the 49ers. I mean, it opens up McCaffrey, gives Purdy some time. I think if Hassan Reddick comes back and he does play, that's going to work in our favor. I would have to think that offensive lineman, not playing at all in camp or in the preseason, he's going to have a little time to get up to speed. So I'm hoping they can take advantage of that. But I think this is going to be a tight game with great defense, low scoring. But we'll get to predictions later. I'm really pumped for it. I think the Jets they're going to do well.
I think Williams will probably do 14 eye gouges, 3 head slaps, and 3 punches and still stay in the game without a flag.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So around the league, a lot of stuff going on. I mean, so Thursday night, we have the Chiefs and Ravens, which, of course, the Super Bowl champion always opens up on Thursday night. But then Friday night, we have the Packers and Eagles on Peacock exclusively in Brazil. And I want to know who the dumbass is who picked Brazil, knowing that the players are urged not to be outside of the hotel, carrying any cell phones, wearing jewelry because of their safety. I mean, why pick Brazil other than to spread the word of the game and put your two teams in harm's way? I don't get this. First off, I'm pissed off it's on Peacock, as we've talked about last year. And then second off, why do we even have to go to Brazil?
It's a great point, and it was very nearly my pet peeve today, because it pisses me off. What's the point of this? Is the point to introduce us to Brazil's culture of murder and gangs and whatever else they've got going down there? Is it so these people can get exposed to American football? Sounds like they shouldn't be out of their house. I think sounds like we're exposing a lot of people to danger along with American football. It makes zero sense to me. typical NFL stupidity. You know, this isn't new stuff happening in Brazil right now. You know, they're telling Americans not to go to the game. I mean, like the federal government is telling people that you shouldn't travel to Brazil. We have a football game in Brazil. You know, it's what a way to kick off the season. Just right there, right in front of everyone to see. You know, they usually have on those international games and sometimes regular games, they have the camera shots from during the week. They captured the footage of different things around the city. What's that going to look like? You know, they're not able to do it.
Well, that's the thing. The teams just left today. Whereas when they went to London last year, the teams were there from like the Sunday before till the game time.
Yeah.
And I think when the Giants go to Munich, they're going to go down like on a Tuesday. So it's, here in Brazil, they're showing up really less than 48 hours before game time.
Yeah. They're smuggling them into the stadium practically.
I'm waiting for the damn day where a Super Bowl is, international game one of these days. We'll see it eventually. What you watch, guys? Yeah, I agree with all those points, Mike. I was thinking the same thing, like leading up to this, just the next couple of days. Thank God it's not our team. I know we got to deal with Munich, Germany later in the year, but this Brazil situation. So yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like imagine you got the overhead blimp. And in between you coming back from a commercial break, and there's you just see like a street fight or something going on, a knife fight.
Yeah.
Right outside the stadium or something. And the camera it quickly goes to something else. But this is I don't know. I think it's a bad move by the NFL. I don't know. Is there that high a demand in the Brazil community that they were demanding and throwing tirades that they needed the NFL there? I doubt it. I don't know the backstory about how they ended up at Brazil. I mean, I'll watch the game, of course, but that has nothing to do with it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I'm pissed off because you look at the slew of games this weekend. It's one of the top 3 games out there, and I would actually love to watch it. I refuse to get Peacock. Send the fucking Panthers there. No one cares about them. But send the Panthers and the Titans. Let Brazil have that. Don't send them the Eagles and the Packers.
I know.
I mean, come on. And you put it
Sir Purr might be the big broker of peace.
Well,
you never know.
Well, I guess the Eagles have Big Dom to keep him safe, so they'll be fine.
Eagles should be fine. Yeah.
Well, I know Novak sent this around earlier today. I don't know how legitimate it is, but of course, we're going into the season, and Taylor Swift is in the news with, a fake document or whatever that came out that supposedly Travis Kelce's going to break up with her on September 23rd or some date. And there's already a document drafted about what's going to happen. Regardless of if this is true or not, this just sets up this whole season to be about Travis and Taylor again. And we're going to be seeing this every week after week.
I'll say this. I hope to God this is true. This fraud, Travis Kelce, and this bullshit that his brother's getting. I'm not gonna. Don't get me started. He's on game show. He's on every fucking commercial. I hope that this fraud is exposed by this. I hope it's true. I really do. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I don't care. I kind of do care. I want this guy to be exposed.
I care, but I don't. Also,
yeah,
I hope the same thing, Novak. I'm like, I think you were the first one. I wasn't aware of it, and I think when you sent it on the text thread, I'm like, bull, this can't be true. This has got to be horse shit, right? But who knows?
Well, look, where there's smoke, there's fire. Is all I'm saying. And who knows if it's true or not? But I can't wait to see how they spin this on Thursday. That's what I'm excited for.
Yeah,
but you're not going to be watching the game.
Thursday, I'll watch it.
Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. It's a Chiefs game.
Chiefs Ravens. That'll watch.
Yeah.
Shit, that's tomorrow already.
Yeah.
NFL starts tomorrow. This is nuts, man. It's here. Season starts tomorrow.
It is. Yep. We're there. We're here.
I say that, but if you have DirecTV right now, I don't think you have ESPN or ABC right now. I think you're out of luck. I'm on YouTube TV now since the package moved there, but yeah. So anything else around the league you guys have seen? I mean, I'll tell you this. I've been watching the shows predicting who's going to go where, and I know we're going to give our game predictions a little bit later, but it's funny. everyone gravitates to the same teams that they have in the past. Like, how many people right now are picking Kyler Murray and the Cardinals to rebound and have this fantastic season? And we're hearing all this hope and promise about Caleb Williams and the Bears and how they're going to make a playoff push. And I just keep thinking to myself, every year, guys, you guys talk about these same teams and you never realize your mistakes. I heard one person say Denver's going to be in the playoffs, which is the only one I heard, but it's one more than I heard anyone say the Giants were going to be in the playoffs. And it's funny because I did see someone saying the Redskins were going to be in the playoffs. So the Giants are not going to be in the playoffs, according to almost everyone out there, but the Redskins have a few supporters. But surprisingly enough, people are either picking Dallas or Philly to win the division, and then they're having only one team from the NFC East in the playoffs.
Well, from what I've seen this last couple of days, sorry, Mike, to jump in. The Giants, I mean, they are, and I think I may have mentioned this a couple weeks ago, they are fucking invisible in this league right now. They just are. I mean, there's nothing like noteworthy, newsworthy, headline-worthy about the New York Giants. There's not. In fact, I'm looking at the odds, the Super Bowl odds right in front of me here on my screen, and they are tied with the fucking Carolina Panthers at 20,000 to 1 or whatever the hell the odds are here. It's kind of great, a little blurry. So we're on par with the Carolina Panthers now. I mean, the Giants in the last week or two have been dropping, down the meter in terms of what they're, when you talk about ceiling and base, they have no ceiling. The Giants, they don't. The only team worse is New England in terms of the Super Bowl odds. So the Giants, nobody's thinking about them to do anything at all. And I can't disagree that much, to be honest. I mean, I don't know that they're going to be on par. I don't think they're going to be as bad as Carolina. God, I hope not. But that's what the experts and the sports media is saying right now. The Giants have actually come down a few pegs, I think, since the start of the preseason. I'm not sure what that's attributed to be honest. So I've seen them drop all the way down.
I think they'll win twice as many games as the Panthers. Could be from
still not saying
2 to
much,
4.
Maybe.
Yeah. 2 to 4 games. Yeah, it's journalism when it comes to this these days, and it probably always has been, but it's just so lazy. It is just really, really lazy. And I'm with Cardone a little bit. I'm not even talking about, the Giants being picked too low. I mean, how can we say that? They've been the worst team in football over the last 10 years. You can't. I don't care that people have picked if the Giants are better than they think, then great for us. The Giants they'll end up having to talk about us. So that doesn't matter to me. But it's this idea that, okay, the NFC East isn't that good a division, so they only get one playoff team. Well, wait a minute. What's that all about? I mean, Dallas and Philly are in that division. I can't go digging around the NFC and find a bunch of other teams that are in the playoffs instead of either one of those two. But it's just, okay, division, not good, one playoff team. The divisions who are really good, a funny thing happens sometimes. They beat the shit out of each other. And then one or two of the teams ends up, versus like a Washington or a Giants team this year who gets a couple cupcake games thrown in. They don't, strength of schedule is very rarely factored in. Like I talked about in the Pet Peeves a couple weeks ago. Okay, they got Chicago, rolling this year with a rookie quarterback. And, when does that happen? That never happens. But they have access to loads more information and data than we have. Mm-hmm. But we don't even need all that to know that these things, just thinking back a year, 2, 3 years ago, that never works out. But they just keep saying the same things. It's like it must be the greatest job in the world. You write one script on the day you get hired, and then you just keep repeating it every 365 days, until something forces you to change an opinion or a gospel thought that you used to have. It's lazy.
I think you said it perfectly, because you're right. They just kind of they just started where they left off at the end of last year.
Yeah.
No one's talking about like there are actually two teams that I believe are going to turn some heads and I think will be very good that no one is talking about. And that's the Atlanta Falcons and the Cleveland Browns. I do think those two teams, if you think about what they've added and what they have, I like those teams, but no one on the sports media takes a chance. It's the Chiefs,
Right.
it's the Bears and Caleb Williams, it's CJ Stroud. Like, oh God, stop. You're right, Mike. It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's lazy.
What I don't get though is, people have been down on Daniel Jones, almost making him a laughing stock of the NFL, but all of a sudden somehow Kyler Murray has risen, 5 inches from the ashes because he's such a tiny guy, and they're propping this guy up like all of a sudden Arizona is going to make a run. Josh Dobbs, when he was a quarterback there last year, didn't play poorly, but they still had a shitty record. I don't know where these wins are coming from with Kyler Murray and where they improved their team so much that they're going to all of a sudden get wins. They didn't really improve their defense that much. And on offense, what they add? They added
Marvin Harrison Jr.
Marvin Harrison Jr. That's it, right?
Yeah.
And they're in a tough division.
The Giants add neighbors, and no one's given that any impact. But all of a sudden, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to him and Murray together are going to lead the Cardinals to even second place in that division, where you have the Rams and the Niners.
Crazy.
Yeah.
If we could stay on quarterbacks for a moment, you might sense where I'm going with this one, because I saw another new article. I don't know what is so interesting about this Pittsburgh Steeler situation in their offense. And the latest article, and it wouldn't be us, wouldn't be the 3 Angry Giant fans and a Jet fan if we didn't mention our boy Justin Fields, because an article today just ran, can Russell Wilson, Justin Fields redeem Steelers offense? And I thought, well, I don't understand. Isn't who a backup quarterback? Are they both going to fucking be on the field at the same time? Why are we talking about 2 quarterbacks on the same team? Help me with this, guys. I don't understand.
No.
I started reading. I'm like, oh God, this is on. What is so compelling about this quarterback situation in Pittsburgh?
They simply refuse to believe that the Steelers can keep this guy on the bench, because they've hyped him up so much in their minds. Like, where is the article that says, can Aaron Rodgers and Tyrod Taylor recharge the Jets offense this year? You don't see that article anywhere.
Name another team where you're listing the backup quarterback. Exactly. The whole point. I can't wait, Mike. I'm sorry, Mike. I'm jumping in.
No, stay on. You got to.
I just can't wait till Russell Wilson, starts the game. Like, imagine if he starts the game this weekend 5 for 10, and God forbid a pick. I want to take a bet, guys, on how quick in that game will we hear Justin Fields' name mentioned as either as an immediate, maybe he should get some snaps during week 1, or how quickly he should be under center. Actually, not even under center, because he's not a quarterback; he's a running back. So you know what I mean. I can't wait to hear how fast that's going to come out, guys. We should take a bet on that. Turn that into a drinking game.
Quick. And if Russell Williams plays his best game as a pro and the Steelers lose, there will be articles that say Justin Fields should now be the starter of this team.
Absolutely.
There's no question.
Yeah. I want to forget Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. You said the word redeem. Redeem from what? They haven't been good on offense in 15 years.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
Can redeem.
Yeah.
I didn't even bother reading the article because I was too disgusted.
No,
I'm like, no, I'm not going to read this. I got the gist of it. And just scrolling down a little bit, I'm like, oh God, I don't get it. I just don't understand what is so interesting and compelling about these 2 quarterbacks in Pittsburgh. It's not. And they're making it a story out of nothing.
The angle on this story that no one's picking up, that to me is the essence of this story. Russell Wilson is with the Steelers. He is a shell of his former self. He is he is nothing. He is at best a low-end backup in this league right now. Yet another coaching staff, yet another year in training camp, and Justin Fields is still on the damn bench. How could that be? That should be the story. That should be the story.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
You're right.
I mean, he's younger, he's faster, he's everything. You name it, Justin Fields is except for maybe smarter
or better.
And
better.
Or better.
I was thinking, I was thinking better. Better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So to switch gears a little bit, before we get into our pet peeves and predictions and all that, I saw a tweet from RG3 this week, and basically he this could have been a pet peeve because he said, if you want Colorado to lose, there is only one reason why. And so of course we're talking about college football now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And when I look at that, I actually responded with our podcast.
Oh, no, you put us all on the line?
I put us all on the line. And I said, wait a minute. I said, I want Colorado to lose because they're like the only team with a 5-win ceiling who is put in like the discussion about being a NCAA champion or being in the NCAA playoff. And the only team that they've ever done that to was last year's Colorado team. So you're taking these teams that have no chance of going far, and you're saying to the public, well, if you hate this team, you only hate them because the head coach and the quarterback are black. Is basically what he's saying.
Sure.
And I think that's disingenuous at best. And actually, I would put this back to Dion and all the bluster he has. You have on that team 2 legitimate Heisman candidates this year, and yet your team might win 5 games. When's the last time a college team has had 2 studs on their team and can't manage to be in the discussion of being a team that should be in the top tier of college football? That goes to coaching.
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do with Dion. I mean, it does have to do with Dion, but the reality is they're a 4-8 team that didn't win shit last year. They're on every national television game, right? They get talked about all the time. He won Sports Person of the Year, and so we don't want them to win because they're overinflated. They don't deserve the credibility they're getting. That's the whole problem. I don't care about Dion.
That's exactly what I said.
Guys, it's sports media. That's what it is. That's why we talk about it. The 4 of us talk about it each and every week. I feel like it's whatever the media, whoever they're elevating or anointing. I typically will have the inverse reaction. It's almost never the person they're talking about. In the case of the dick, that's different. but it's usually the sports media that are driving my emotional reaction to something. Yeah. So that's exactly what you're talking about there, Scott, right? And it's not has nothing to do with Deion Sanders. It really, I mean, it does, like you just said, yes, but it's really the sports media.
Yeah. And where it has to do with Deion Sanders is him being a arrogant dick more than anything else. And it has nothing to do with his skin color. Just like it didn't have anything to do when people got sick and tired of the Tebow hype. Tebow was a white guy. We hated Tim Tebow by the time he was done in college because it was shoved down our throats that this guy's the next, Dan Marino.
It's a great example.
Perfect example. And it's so true. It's the same exact thing.
But it's interesting, and I don't mean to sound like an obsessed crazy person by bringing this back to Fields because I am an obsessed crazy person, but it's the exact same formula, right? What they're doing with Colorado is just what they do with Justin Fields. It's don't look at the results. Don't look over here. This guy's great because we said he's great. It's the same thing with Colorado. Oh, don't pay attention to those. We say that they're great and, there's something wrong with you. The accusatory tone of that is, there's something morally wrong with you if you don't like the team. I mean, that is ridiculous. By the way, if Alex Orji starts for Michigan this week, who's a black quarterback, then Michigan will have a black coach and a black quarterback. And I do not hate Michigan. So I exonerate myself from the conversation.
Well, it's one of those things too. I hate when people inject race into a conversation without looking around the room and understanding why people dislike Colorado. People might dislike Primetime because of his arrogance. And why does no one think that at all? I hated him as a player because of his arrogance.
Yeah.
It wasn't that he was a certain color, because look, guys, we root for players that are different races. My favorite Giant, and I'll talk about it later when we get to a question by Peacock, my favorite Giant's LT. It has nothing to do with race or even morals for that matter, but
I mean, they're all in there.
And his name is escaping me now because I'm getting old. I hated that Ohio State coach of Florida. What's his name?
Art Meyer.
I was going to bring Urban Meyer up as an example too.
I can't stand. I hate him more than I hate Dion because he's I'm going to use the word fraud way too much tonight. I'm telling you right now because it's in my pet peeve. But he's a fraud too. That guy.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, Novak's brought up many things on this air, things I didn't even know about Dion that made him seem like a less than wonderful person, and I hated him anyway. I hated him before that for all the reasons Scott mentioned. So, Little
known fact: he had a wife who was from Elmira, New York. So
oh, wow.
He married a girl who was a sister of a classmate that I was with. So
Elmira on the map.
Elmira's on the map.
Yeah.
Hello, Elmira.
By the way, it is a little bit as a Clemson fan, although Clemson did get their asses kicked by Georgia, and Dabo's coming under a ton of fire for not using the transfer portal, and I don't understand why that is, but Florida State and DJ Uiagalelei not performing has been really good. So I do know this. I think Clemson's going to beat your guys' App State team, but I am not going to put anything in a red Solo cup and make a prediction on that. So, so anything else you guys got before we get into pet peeves? Actually, before we get to pet peeves, why don't we do predictions? Because we normally do predictions before the pet peeves. So
I will do my usual shoddy role as secretary in the pet peeves or in the predictions.
I will start with Cardone on the predictions.
I feel like mine are so lame and scripted because week one, you just don't know, what's going to happen, right? One thing I will say before I get to our specific games, one thing I do look for in week one, and really every week, and as long as the Giants are still alive and breathing, which may not even get to freaking Halloween this year, as we like to mention every year, I always look for the AFC NFC matchups. Right out of the gate for playoff positioning. It all matters because when you're battling for wild card and all that stuff, it always matters. The biggest, the easiest way to get those losses in the NFC, lose to an AFC team. I don't care
Jets
about
fans
that.
This week.
Exactly, of course. So. I kind of circled those games on, I like to look at there's 5 of them this week. Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Arizona, Buffalo, Tennessee, Chicago, Dallas, Cleveland. We always, know what we do there. And then Jets, San Francisco. So just wanted to, before I pick the Giant-Jet game or Giants and Jets, just wanted to highlight that, looking for the AFC, NFC matchups because no one really talks about that early in the year. I'm already looking at that week one as far as, playoff positioning and everything, but not that the Giants will be around the wild card situation later. But I'll start with my Giants, and this is lame, man, because I think both teams are going to struggle offensively. Actually, I think I don't see a fluid offense for either team for reasons that we kind of already highlighted. Giants specifically, the offensive line I think needs to gel. Jones needs to get. He needs to get back to game speed. So I don't know what we're getting from Daniel Jones. I mean, Minnesota, looking at their depth chart on offense particularly, I mean, we should quadruple team Justin Jefferson because other than that, because Darnold's going to be looking to get him the ball as much as possible, right? That's the easy, safe target for a stand. And I'm not knocking Darnold. It's not like this guy can't win a game in the NFL, but being thrust kind of into week one wasn't. The preseason starter. Now he's had a few weeks to digest the fact that he's going to be starting game one. So hopefully he'll be a little nervous on the road. This is the game, guys, that we've been asking for years in terms of a 1:00 Sunday at home against what we think is a winnable game and a winnable team. I am not going to predict a lot of wins for the Giants this year, but I am predicting a win on Sunday because if I don't, I have to just somehow, get out of the gate here, 1-0, please. I'm so tired of being 0-1 every damn year. So I have a kind of a low, on the low scoring end. I got the Giants 20-16 on Sunday, 1:00. And that's mostly because I think both offenses are not going to put up a ton of points. Even 20 sounds like a lot for the Giants, to be honest. I was thinking this game would be in the teens, but I'll throw in a Gano field goal in there somewhere. And we win 20-16 over Minnesota on Sunday. And then Novak's Jets. Again, this is one of those. That's a tough place to start, man. We've talked about it since the schedule came out. And right, Novak, and I know that's just a tough Week 1 opponent.
Bad game one.
It's a tough road trip. It's a Monday night. I think the Jet defense is definitely going to play well. There's no question about that. But that's one of those games where I would love to see the Jets take out the Niners. Why not? But I don't see it. I think Rodgers will play okay. But I think in the end, Purdy and that Niner offense will do enough. I'm just realizing now I have that also as a 4-point game. I have close games, not a high scoring game. I have San Francisco winning 24-20 over your Jets. So I got Giants 1 up, Jets 1 down. So I'll be wrong.
So the Giants game is tough for me. I think we assume that Sam Darnold is, he's just as Scott says, they own Sam Darnold. But look, he came into the league in an Adam Gase system with not a lot of weapons around him. He went to Carolina and played for that garbage organization and had Baker Mayfield breathing behind his back. Then he went to San Francisco and got a little learning from Kyle Shanahan, got to see what winning was like. And now he's in Minnesota and he doesn't have J.J. McCarthy breathing down his back. So he's the guy. And he's got weapons on top of it. I hate to say this, but I think that he's going to be better. And he's playing for Kevin O'Connell, who I think is a great offensive mind. I like the Vikings in this game, 24-21 over the Giants and a late field goal. As for the Jets, look, I was all set to pick them until Trent Williams signed. So I kind of gave it away earlier in the pod, but I think that the Niners are a very different team without Trent Williams. It is hard for the Jets to be able to go on the road, not having played much. Rodgers off an Achilles. I hate to say I don't care if they lose. I want them to win, obviously, but I'm expecting this loss. I want them to play well. I want them to compete, and I want this to be a close game. And if they come out of this game looking decent and Rodgers looks good, I'll be thrilled because their next 5 games are relatively easy. But I'm going to take the Niners on this, 21-17.
All right. Well, since Mike's transcribing, I will give my predictions. And for me, I do think the Giants at home are finally going to come out in a season at a 1:00 game on Sunday and get a win. I see Neighbors getting a touchdown. I think Singletary gets a touchdown. I think Jones plays efficiently. I don't know if spectacularly. And I have them winning actually pretty big here. I have them winning 24-13. So I have the Giants beating the Vikings by 11. I do think Darnold is not going to play well. I do worry about Jefferson more than anyone else on that team. For the Jets game, this was a tough one. I think Rodgers will go at least to the 13th snap before getting hurt this year. But
if he gets hurt in this game, literally don't text me. Just don't. I don't want to talk to anybody.
I wouldn't even dare.
Send EMT or someone over to my house because
it's got to be the clavicle, right? You're going to go with clavicle.
If it's anything serious, I don't want to talk to anyone. Anyone listening to this pod, don't call me, don't contact me. Just leave me alone because I just want to. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry, Scott.
No, you're fine. So I am with everyone else's sentiments here. I mean, I want the Jets to win this game. And I do think the Jets could. Little known fact, the 49ers are 0-6 in their last 6 games at home against the spread. I don't know what the spread is in this game, but I do have the 49ers taking this one, and I think they'll probably get a late touchdown, so it'll be close, but the end score will be larger than what it should be, and I have them winning 27-20.
4.5. San Francisco.
4.5. So
4.5 spread,
so
yeah.
the 49ers would break that streak then, apparently. Mike.
Hey. Yeah, so I'm gonna have some bold predictions along with my just score prediction and winning prediction. I've got a couple of things I think they're gonna fall out here in week 1. So I'll come right out and say it. I'm with Scott on this. I think the Giants dominate this game from start to finish. It's just a gut feeling I have. I know Cardone, you're like, how?
Yeah, that's hey, keep going.
Yep. Now I think the Vikings are in for a bit of a surprise. I think the Giants get out to an early lead and are able to hold it on comfortably and hold the ball at the end of the game. I think I've got 30-13 as my score for that game. I think the Giants are breaking 30. I don't think I don't know whether or not Daniel Jones is going to be great. I don't think he has to. I think they're going to get the ball out of his hands quick. That will benefit everybody. I don't know that Neighbors will have a particularly great day, but I just think this will just sort of be a grinded out. I don't know, even though the score says 30-13, I don't know that we'll actually have a Grey Goose moment in there. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe right near the end.
I was like, what's a Grey Goose
Goose
going to happen?
Yeah. So my bold predictions for that game are this. Sam Darnold does not finish this game.
Oh.
I don't think Sam Darnold finishes the game. I think the Giants score on defense to help them get to that 30. And maybe that's bad news because I did not know that Nick Mullins was the backup. I'm with Cardone. I don't want any part of Nick Mullins, but I do not think.
No, Mullins is only a giant killer when he starts, though. Yeah, he started that game when he was playing for the Niners. So as a backup, may not have as much fortune. So we'll go with that, Mike.
Coming off the bench, yeah.
Yes, please continue. This is
so
good.
Yeah, I think that the Giants score on defense. I don't think Darnold finishes the game. I think the Giants bring up his old ghosts that he sees from time to time. And I think the Giants win this one, if not dominantly, then what's the word I'm looking for here? Casually.
Yeah.
Sort of a casual win.
What's the over under on the number of times they mentioned Darnold coming back to MetLife?
Jeez.
It's at least 3.
We got a lot of prop bets in here.
Yeah.
Jeez.
For the Jets game, like, I agree with the outcome, and I am going to pick the 49ers, but I think I might be wrong. I think the Jets are going to – I'm going to pick them because I don't want to fall behind making these stupid picks like I made last year. I want to stay with the group a little bit. So I'm going to pick the 49ers. I do think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think Rodgers is going to be just fine in this game, and he's going to be really good at handing the ball off to Breece Hall and pitching it out to Garrett Wilson when he needs to. And I think the Jets hang around, and I think this is a late field goal either way. I think it's probably going to be last team to have the ball. So I'm going to say it's 24-21 Niners.
Good. Novak,
I don't have any. I don't have any bold predictions for the Jet game.
I'm just glad you said that you didn't want that Rodgers was not going to get hurt. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. I don't want any bad mojo going to this game.
I don't want to see it for Novak's sake, but for the karma of the NFL, it'd be great if he limps off and is done by like the first.
I could do it. I'm too close to Novak now.
I can't handle that mentally. I really can't. Stop. Like,
without Novak in my life, I would be actively rooting for it, but I can't. I can't let that happen.
I appreciate that. So my pet peeve starts off very positively, actually, and it's because, as Cardone knows, I went to the App State game on Saturday, and in my opinion, there's not a much better venue in the country than Kid Brewer Stadium on a Saturday, with the band and the cheerleaders and the alumni song and the players running out. It is just an awesome venue, and I was all pumped up for college football. I was like, football is back. It's football at its purest. Loved it. Happy, excited. And then that night I get home, and I'm already annoyed by and angry at college football because, guys, I'm telling you, we are seeing the beginning of the end of the ACC, number one.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that the ACC is at the beginning of the end. I really do. I think what's going to happen is Clemson, Florida State, and North Carolina are like, we're not going to be able to compete because if we lose one game, we can't compete with the SEC and the Big Ten, and they're going to bolt for one of those two divisions. So the NCAA, I know the NCAA doesn't have to do with it, but that's a problem. So I'm already angry about that. Then, I saw the documentary about the fucking sign stealing thing from Michigan. And this garbage organization of the NCAA if they spent more than 1 minute on this sign stealing thing, that they are the biggest hypocrites on the freaking planet. Because don't you have bigger things to worry about than sign stealing, which last I knew, everyone does signs. If you can find a way to steal signs, good for you. Like, to me, I get fine with this, and they're wasting their time and this when all this crap is going on with the NIL and everything else. So then I got annoyed about the NIL. So now the Pet Peeve is expanding, and I looked at the top NIL teams, which Ohio State, the ones wanting to check out Michigan because of that, $20 million of NIL deals in this team. That's more than the Tampa Bay Rays, contracts. But here are the top 4 NIL deals. You ready for this? Shador Sanders at $4.7 million is number 1. He has the biggest.
Oh dear God.
Number 2, Livy Dunn is at 3.9. Isn't this supposed to be for like athletic prowess on the field?
Not
we
anymore.
know why she's getting this money, so I'm not even going to mention it. Number 3, Arch Manning. He's played 5 plays. And 4 is Travis Hunter for this fraud organization in Colorado. So now I'm annoyed about college football. And last year, all I did was talk positively about it. Pet peeve is college football. It's all screwed up already. I'm done.
Novak, you gotta take into a game at Memorial Stadium in Clemson one time just to see the atmosphere, to see them run down the hill. You will have a perspective there that you don't get at App State.
Okay. I don't know that I agree with that.
I had not put the two things together before, Novak, but what a great distraction Michigan has been from the rest of college football being a dumpster fire. Isn't that convenient that they get to point to that and say, oh, don't look at this NIL stuff? I had no idea, by the way, the NIL contracts were that much. So again, educated on my own show. That's amazing. Thank you.
Livy Dunn, a gymnast from LSU.
She's not even a good gymnast, apparently. She barely starts, whatever that is.
This is funny. I'm gonna have to bring this up because Novak, what I love about that pet peeve is that you, like you said, you foreshadowed that it started out positively.
Yeah.
The crisp mountain air. And by the way, Boone, North Carolina, just an unbelievable. I just love the mountains of North Carolina, and the fact that my kid went to Appalachian State, I got to see games up there. It's just phenomenal. So I want to keep that tradition up of going to Boone at least once a year. And going to see games up there. But my brother and I were talking about this weekend. I was in New Jersey this past weekend visiting family and stuff. And I was at my nephew's high school football game. My nephew Nick plays for Freehold Township. They beat Toms River South, by the way, 35-14. So anyway, it was a great game. Nick played great. He played, quarterback. He just had a great. And my brother and I, true Cardones, true angry, like – the game, like we're at a high school game and we were barking at the chain gang because the guy who was holding the down marker was standing behind the ref. Like instead of standing behind the ref and holding out his arm, where the actual line of scrimmage is to see around the ref, he was just casually holding it in front of him a full yard ahead of the line of scrimmage. So my brother and I are barking like, move the stick, you asshole. This is a high school football game. So I even said, I predicted what was going to happen. This isn't even my pet peeve, by the way. This is a bonus for all our listeners right now. I said, watch what's going to happen, Greg. They're going to throw this was when Toms River South had the ball. I go, they're going to throw an incomplete pass. The ref's going to come over, look through the sideline, and then put it. So now that's exactly what happened. So instead of second and 10 on an incomplete pass, well, now it's fucking 2nd and 9 because this guy wouldn't move at the line of scrimmage. And the whole thing is like, we can't enjoy anything anymore. Greg and I were saying, it doesn't matter. This is a high school football game. His son played great. And by the end of it, we were losing our voice. We can't enjoy anything. I'm at the point where none of this is enjoyable. I just try to survive everything. It's a sad state of affairs. So that reminded me of that right there, where you started the day out great. And by the time you got home, you were disgusted with college football after coming home from a great game up in Boone. So that was an unintentional slide in right there. Sorry, guys.
Bonus time.
I'm glad I got it in.
Keep the pet peeves going.
Okay, so so you mentioned Memorial Stadium. So this goes right into my pet peeve, which is I got my App State hat on right now. I will be at Clemson this Saturday, this weekend, to watch the Mountaineers take on Clemson. We're kind of, but App has done this before over the years. We all know what App is capable on the road. They're not afraid to go into these these stadiums and try to take out Goliath. But so, but my specific pet peeve, and we've all done this, and I had a friend who got the tickets, for online, of course, for our game tickets and an Airbnb and all that stuff. We're staying down there for a couple days. We've all purchased game tickets online. So when doing that, I cannot handle these hidden fucking fees anymore when doing anything online, particularly sporting events. When I can't take, the last one I did, you see like, and it'll show whether it's Vivid Seats or StubHub, any one of these, sites, and it shows, it ranks how good this is amazing deal, great deal, 8.8 or whatever the hell it says. But then when you go to start checking out, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. You got the order processing fee, the service fees, the convenience fee. I don't know what that is. What, just like fucking typing in on someone setting up a website, and then the delivery fees. There's probably some other ones in there. And I started thinking about that scene where Jerry's buying the car at the dealership and Putty's the salesman now. And he's, and all of a sudden he's not getting the insider deal anymore. And Putty starts rattling off finder's fee. Finder's fee, it was on the lot. Convenience fee, it was already online. What are you talking about? He's like undercoding. Yeah, what is that, by the way? That's a ripoff, isn't it? Oh, we don't even know what that is. So that's like that's the service fees on on Vivid Seats. And then finally he's like keys. That's another keys. How are you going to start it? So that's the delivery fee. It's like delivery fee. How are you going to get the tickets? So why not? It's less aggravating, and this goes for Airbnb or any of these reservations, Expedia, just pick one of them. But when you do it all collectively for like one weekend, the hidden fees, by the time you think like, wow, we're getting a great deal. Then when you add it all up, you're like, I'm getting screwed here. It's unbelievable. So the hidden fees, I'd rather as a consumer, just tell me what it cost. Include all the fees. I don't know about you guys. I'd rather just see the final cost. I'm less aggravated. I'd be less aggravated at that. It pisses me off more after the hidden fees are calculated in, because that's what drives me crazy. And you have to go through the process to see all that stuff as you're clicking away to get to, before you get to the checkout with your little card up there. So my, pet peeve is it's just the hidden fees, guys, in everything you do online. Drives me crazy.
Cardone, I bought a ticket a couple months ago to something. It was a concert, I think.
Yeah.
$50 was the ticket, and the fees added up to $30. So it was an $80 ticket.
Exactly.
So again, just
almost
say it's $80.
Exactly. Wouldn't it be more?
I'd pay $80
you'd be less aggravated. Exactly. Just tell me what the final thing is. I'm like, you know what? But these hidden, again, it's like any of these, bills. Whoever who even looks at like electric bills and all that shit anymore, or whatever. It's all online, and there's stuff in there just like the Vandalay pickup fee or something like. All right, I'll just throw that in there. I don't know what the heck it is. Yeah, it's just so. But instead of just going down, enjoying the moment and like getting excited to go to the game, I'm like still peeved over just the cost of going out of my house to go visit. We all we talked about season tickets and all that. I brought it up on last week's pod about how he's. My brother still has season tickets to the Giants. I don't know how he does it, especially with the shit product they've been putting out there. I got to ask him. I don't even know what face value is for the tickets anymore. But just the cost of going to a sporting event, it's just out of control. There's no stopping it, and it's only going to keep getting worse.
We did that because we were getting tickets to both the App State game. We're going to NC State this year with Clemson. We're going to the South Carolina game too. And you see the ticket up there for like $40. You're like, oh, this isn't bad. And you're buying 4 of them. Well, the $40 is the face value. And then after all the additional fees, it's like a $75 ticket times 4. So it's like that adds up, because then it's $35 times 4 versus one ticket.
And then on top of it, you go to get a beer, right? And they don't do cash, and then you flip it around and they do 20, 30, or 40% tip. And I'm like, I always tip. Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't tip, because I always do. But I'm like, you literally turned around, grabbed a Miller Lite out of a cooler and handed it to me.
Yeah, 20%.
And then, right. And then Novak. And then I have to be the asshole old guy. Well, I got to do like the custom tip. I got to take the extra couple steps. So like, well, no, I'm not giving you 25%. I have to figure, I got to kind of go back and be like, didn't it always used to be like just a buck of beer? Wasn't that always the staple? Like, but wherever you go, buck of beer. So now you get 2 cans. I'm supposed to give you like $5.79 for handing me 2 cans? For what?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not even pouring the fucking thing. You're handing me a can.
Or you're the old guy, like you said, holding everyone up when you're trying to figure what? No, I want to do custom $3, no, $2.75. Like, yeah, you don't want to be that guy either.
Oh, I'm such the old guy now. It's really bad. My son called. We went to a Charlotte Knights game not too long ago. Thank God. I mean, I could have just had to void it out, whatever. But I'm the asshole who put in somehow like a $200 tip. I'm trying to put a fucking decimal in there for some reason. I was trying to give the guy like $2. My son's like, Dad, you just put in $200. I'm like, what? You know? No. So. Meanwhile, I love how the guy sees me. He didn't stop me. The guy's standing right over my shoulder. The guy didn't say like, "Sir, I don't know. You might have, is that a mistake?" He's just like kind of standing there like, "Oh yeah, have a good night." My son's like, "Dad, I don't think you want to do that." I'm like, "No."
When did we make the transfer over, by the way, to no cash? I used to go to a couple places for lunch for work, and I would get so annoyed. Like, we don't take credit. I'm like, who carries cash? Or I mean, that used to be a pet peeve. Now it's gone the other way. What do you mean? I go up with $10 and hand it to somebody. Oh God, no. Come on, man.
That was COVID that did that.
Take money in whichever way. Why would you limit how someone can give you money?
We went to the Yankee game on Saturday. My son called my brother and I, and we truck up to the Bronx, and so we $50 to park. We were looking for a different lot.
Why did you just take a train?
I don't know. From where Greg lives, it's too far. I mean, it's he's in Howell. It's not along the coastline there. So anyway, we drove in, and this was wild, guys. So we $50. We paid cash. And then as we, it was slow roll into the parking lot, and we're in a lot that we've, Greg's, I obviously don't go to games. He's, we didn't know where the hell to park. It was a traffic jam where we don't know what level we're on. We're like, what's going on? We're just confused. So then we see we go around the corner and there's cones and then you have the attendant, you have this old crusty woman who, I apologize, but like barely speak English. You know what I mean? Like one of those. And she's pointing. So we, Greg has the window down and we're like, park there. And she's like, well, you could park there. In other words, she's looking for more money. So Greg's like, so let me get this right. I just fucking paid $50 cash right there. I go 15 feet and I got to give you. He goes, I'll give you $5. She goes, and she just points. She, like $5 wasn't enough. She points us. She goes, yeah. She scoffed at it. So we're thinking like, what has this world come to? We just paid $50 to put a car in a garage, and then 15 feet later, $5 couldn't get us in the front there. We drive around. The same thing happened again. We're trying to park, and these guys are looking for more cash. What is going on in this society? Isn't it just park where you park and then you find the best spot you can? We had to go through this, like, I don't know, some kind of like secret underground, like another level of fees, like a speakeasy. I had to like give the guy a code to get to like down row, like the front row. What's the code? What? I guess the code is a Jackson. What is that? A 20? I don't like what? What are we doing?
The pearl is in the river.
God. So, needless to say, we didn't park there. We just traveled. And then, lo and behold, we go down another level, wide open. All the spots you want. I'm trying to, like, what the fuck are we giving you another $10 for over here? My God.
So I am actually sticking with the theme of college here, kind of, but it transfers into the pros. And that's the last several weeks we've heard how quarterbacks next year are going to be terrible. We don't have any quarterbacks whatsoever that are going to be available to draft at the top of the draft. And yet week 1 happens, and all of a sudden now there's like 10 guys are raving about this guy from Ole Miss is awesome. This guy is great. Carson Beck, he's the fucking best, and it's like, well, you just told me 2 weeks ago that there's no one worth drafting at the top of the first round, but you've raved about like 10 different quarterbacks in the college football. And this is how things change from season to season, week to week, even not only in college football, but in pro football too. So, those people that want the Giants to get a quarterback next year are like, well, they're going to have to move up to number 1 to get a decent quarterback. Well, hell, I've heard 10 guys are great this year. So what's the real answer here? And I'll tell you this right now. If you look back to 2020, there's still not been that many quarterbacks drafted in the first round who have panned out.
Not really.
No.
Yeah.
No. Not a given.
That's kind of what I was talking about earlier. You know, the analysis of quarterback play is so poor. It is so poor. Scott, your point is an excellent one. You know, yes, I've heard the same thing. There's not going to be, you know, these great top 5 quarterbacks to take. Trust me, when the draft comes next year, quarterbacks are going to be taken in the top 5.
Oh, yes.
It just, you know, and most of them are a reach. And just to show you how much it doesn't even matter, like you know, Caleb Williams is going to be the number 1 pick, right? He didn't have a great final college season. He didn't, but it didn't drop him 1 spot on the board. He went number 1 overall because at one point he looked like he could be a great NFL starter. He didn't look like an NFL starter to me last year, but people told me to trust him. Just trust him. It's a great point. It's really good.
Yeah. I don't know how these guys continue to, I mean, DJ Ungalalelele, when he plays for North Dakota State next year, all of a sudden he's going to be a top choice too.
Yeah.
Can this guy keep playing college football?
Seriously,
he's like 32?
Please play 10 years. It would be the greatest if he just tanks another college.
That'd be great.
Who was the guy who played this weekend for 9 years? He's at 9 years in college.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
9 years. Guy's like 30.
Like Blutarski at Faber College. He was
only on college.
Yeah, 7 years, I think. I love his sweatshirt just said college.
Yeah, college.
So we had several questions this week.
Wait.
Mike didn't go.
I don't get a pet peeve.
Wait, did I go before you?
You did.
Yeah.
Oh.
Since I didn't go at all, you clearly went before me.
I didn't want to pass Cardone. I really didn't want to follow Cardone, and then I just completely obliterated.
I could give Cardone mine. Cardone kind of had 2 awesome ones. I'd be proud to. One of them wasn't even.
I had an unintentional one. It just happened.
Well, I'll tell you, college football. I'm going to go back to college football for mine. I was with Novak. Saturday was, you know, Michigan didn't play till 7:30. I had nothing else to do. I watched games all day. And very early in the games, I noticed something because I remember hearing this. I kind of forgot about it, but they now have, you know, the 2-minute warning in college, right? So I'm listening, and the announcers are all excited about it. Oh, the first 2-minute timeout of the year. And they're like, it's a new rule in college, and they're explaining it a little bit. And they're like, very similar to the NFL 2-minute warning. So I'm naturally a little curious, right? Similar, what's different, right? So they never explain what's different. They just call it continuously the 2-minute timeout. Like they're going out of their way to not say 2-minute warning. You guys know me. I started getting pissed off about it. I'm like, what is happening? What is happening in this game that they can't say 2-minute warning? I don't understand. So it went on all day. It went on all day through the college games. And I'm like, all right, something is brewing behind the scenes here because they kept saying it's very similar to the NFL 2-minute warning. So I do some research on it this week. I'm looking at it. Here's the rule. When the game clock is running and the ball is not live, the referee shall stop the clock with exactly 2 minutes remaining in the second and fourth quarters for a 2-minute timeout. If the ball is live when the game clock reaches 2 minutes in the second and fourth quarters, play will continue, and the referee or covering official shall stop the clock when the ball is declared dead for a 2-minute timeout. It's exactly the NFL.
That's I was waiting for the difference.
There is no difference. But it says it's not a warning, so we're not calling it a warning. Why confuse people? Even people who don't know anything about football, it's a 2-minute warning. Just call it a 2-minute warning.
Offensive? Is it an offensive word?
Oh, that might be it.
Maybe warning's a trigger word. I have no idea. That sounds too harsh, right? I'm warning you. 2 minutes left. Nobody. So it's a real thing. I don't know how many people caught that, but man, by the second game, the first time, like, all right, we're approaching the 2-minute timeout, so we'll see. But what is going on?
I did catch the timeout wordage.
I didn't notice it.
But I thought, like, maybe the difference here is that they stop it at 2 minutes no matter what. Like, if the clock's running or not. I didn't realize that it's the same exact thing as a 2-minute warning.
Exact same rule. And they kept saying, like, we all know how they do with new rules. Like you gotta cover it extensively. You've got to talk about it every time. Which is why I'm really looking forward to the NFL kickoff as well. That's going to be great. I'm sorry, the dynamic kickoff. It's not a dynamic kickoff. Yeah, and they kept, every time they would say very similar to the NFL 2-minute warning. It really got under my skin after a while. It really got under my skin.
So is there any tangible difference at all?
No, it's the exact same rule.
They just call it timeout instead of warning.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Unbelievable.
Oh yeah. I was both really angry and I knew immediately, I'm like, this is my pet peeve. There's no question.
Could it possibly be that the NFL has like a copyright on that saying or something?
Now, some people speculated that, but the NFL said, no, I mean, they use 2-minute warning in high school. We use it,
right. Of course. Yeah, what am I saying? Yeah.
I don't know if they have a 2-minute warning in high school or not, but yeah, no, but the NFL said, no, it has nothing to do with us. Like they're free to use 2-minute warning if they'd like, but no, they just decided that warning maybe is a little too harsh. I don't know, but it's funny, kind of like what happened with Novak. Like as I was researching this thing, I found something else couldn't be less related that pissed me off almost as much as this. So I looked at the article that kind of broke down, and I noticed at the top it said, story by Jim Johnson, whoever, 2-minute read said at the top. So I'm like, how do they know how fast I read? They have no idea. It could take me 6 minutes to read this for all they know. Maybe I'm a speed reader. Maybe it'll take me 10 seconds to read it. How can they possibly know? So that got under my skin a little bit. Like, don't judge my reading speed. You know nothing about it. And secondly, are we so attention deficit that we need to know before we read a newspaper article how long it might take? Is that something? I don't got 3 minutes to read this. Let's see. Mm-hmm. All right, it's a 2-minute read. I'll go ahead. I'll read this. No. Our attention span is for crap that newspapers have to tell us. I'm saying newspapers. That's how old I am. I'm reading it online right now. That articles in media have to tell us how long it might take, how long they might need our tiny little bits of attention for.
So we do have quite a few questions this week. My friend Mike sent in 3, and this first one, it's one of those we talk about a lot in terms of what do you do with a starter. He said, if Adoree Jackson is back to play cornerback, should he be practicing returning punts? Because he was practicing returning punts. And then the second part of that is who should be the next man up if Gunner can't go as a punt returner. And since I had the option of having this question earlier, I'll say this. I've never had a problem with a starter returning punts. I'm looking back at the days when Darryl Grant used to return kicks against the Giants for touchdowns. And, obviously Dion used to be there. And when we put Beckham back there, he'd be electric when he could be. I want the best person possible to return punts. I think if you're going to get injured in a football game, you're going to get injured in a variety of ways. And it doesn't necessarily have to be because you're returning punts. It could be because of anything that you do. That being said, I don't know who the next man up should be if Gunner can't go, because I know Gray didn't do great last year, and I just don't know who can do it. I saw some clips in college and Neighbors returning punts. He muffed a few punts, but he also had some great returns. So I really don't know the answer to that. That's where I rely on the coaching staff to be able to tell us the best option.
On the Giants depth chart, it's got Slayton, Wandale, and Tracy behind Gunner as the punt returner.
I'm looking at the same exact thing, Mike. Yep.
Yeah.
I was just going to mention
those guys to me, I mean, it seems to me like out of those 3, Wandale or Tracy, Slayton kind of has straight ahead speed, right? Maybe that's fine, but Wandale's shifty as hell. It seems like you get him in the open field, that might be where he could really shine for this team, actually. But yeah.
Honestly, guys, I mean, I don't care what the guy, just Get a guy back there that can catch the ball. That's my biggest concern.
Yep.
I'm not worried about speed and get a guy who can catch the ball. I mentioned Isaiah Hodgins earlier. Wasn't he the asshole who dropped not one but two against in that Seattle game? Was that even 2 years ago, or
was that Hodgins, or was that someone different though?
I don't remember who. I thought it might have been Hodgins. I think right after we picked him up. I think it was actually 2 years ago. Didn't we just pick him up from Buffalo? I think, and we stick him back there, and that asshole dropped. He caused 2 turnovers.
See, I didn't think it was Hodgins, but I remember that, but I didn't think it was Hodgins. You might
thought
be
it was Hodgins. That's for some reason my memory is, but yeah, no. For my biggest concern is get a guy who can catch the freaking ball. That's consistently. Give me Phil McConkey.
I'd like to change my answer to Cardone's. That's
just
you're right. Just put 100 balls in a jugs machine, and whoever drops the least is the punt returner.
That's it.
So we'll talk about this in a little bit on one of the questions coming up in terms of the Giants top 100. But one of the great things I heard, they had Tiki and Phil Simms on the group that was 11 to 20 for the Giants top 100. And one of the things Tiki talked about was Amani Toomer. And he said one of the great things about Toomer, because I think Toomer came in at like 17 on the all-time Giants list. And he said the guy would be he caught everything with a basket catch. And he said it was perfect as a punt returner because he always caught the ball as a basket catch, and he was always securing the ball before anything else happened. And, I don't remember Amani too much having great punt returns, but the fact that he secured the ball was one of those things.
Yeah.
And I won't get into this any other place, I don't think, in the podcast, but one of the great things I heard Tiki say, and this is where we have the conversation between coaching versus talent a lot. Tiki said under Fossil, he loved Fossil. He kept saying R.I.P. Jim Fossil, several times. That staff recognized he had a fumbling problem, but they never knew what to do about it. And he didn't know what to do about it. And he said it started to manifest with him. He said as soon as Coughlin and that group came in, they talked to him about holding the ball high and tight. We all laugh about the high and tight, but everyone knows the high and tight now because of Tiki. So they instituted the high and tight, and he cut his fumbles basically down to nothing.
Yeah.
And
nothing.
And he said, all it took was that coaching to get me to understand what I was doing wrong. So when we talk about the difference between, razor thin margins in the NFL, how much of it is because of that coaching that Tiki just had versus what we see with, like, let's say a Joe Judge regime or someone like that. So that really stood out to me.
Yeah. I mean, Tiki not only stopped fumbling, but he became a better running back when he started doing that. And, maybe some of that was, he didn't have to worry about, boy, if I get hit, am I going to drop this ball? I do know that after he went like a year and a half without fumbling and he had one, some stupid announcer said, and I'll never forget it. Wow, this is Tiki. This is the problem with Barber. You're going to get this. I'm like, he hasn't fumbled in 2 years.
Yep. So he mentioned that. He said someone approached him while he was sitting there and said, Tiki, you have a fumbling problem. And he's like, at that point, he realized, yeah, I do. But no one had any answers for him until Coughlin came around.
Until the staff, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing that no one on a professional football staff could tell him how to hold a football. That's kind of damning.
He said he didn't know better. He said he was just carrying the ball like you do in Pee Wee. You're like, hey, I'm just running through, Which I get it. I get that part from a player standpoint. So
Scott,
Mike also
can I make my correction? You were correct. I don't know. I had Isaiah Hodge. It was I forget. It was Richie James.
Oh, Richie James. Yeah.
Richie James. The two punt return fumbles costing us a game in Seattle 2 years ago. I'm still bringing it up, but yeah.
No, I remember Richie. It was Richie James. I just didn't remember Hodgins ever doing that.
Yeah, I don't know why I just got those guys confused. It was Richie James, that moron. Yes.
So Mike also asks, year one, Dable's gambles paid off. Whenever he went for it, it seemed to work. Whenever he did something, it seemed to work. Year two, everything seemed to backfire. So year three, do we look at Dable's decision-making as being a possible issue, or is it one of those things where I guess you'd call it you just don't have enough enough information to know whether or not it works more times than not.
I think those are in-game decisions sometimes, based on whatever the situation is. I don't think you can go into, although he did say.
Well, put it this way. Do you guys disagree with Daboll's decision-making usually?
Not really.
No.
I usually don't.
I know there've been a couple. There was one, I remember that I think there was one last year where I went off about it, but for the most part, not really.
Yeah, I can't think of a time where I've been that pissed at Daboll specifically for either not going for it or going for it, whatever the case. Well, he did say, I think I'm going back to the win at Tennessee week 1. Didn't he say? Didn't he mention something about before the game even that if it comes down to a game-winning type of touchdown, he's going for 2? Because if you guys remember, we scored the touchdown and he went for 2 and it paid off. And I think I had mentioned in the post game, I remember him saying that he decided that even before kickoff, which is kind of interesting. Sometimes,
yeah,
I think those things happen. You get a feel for how the game is going. I think, whether a lot can obviously all kinds of momentum and things, but no, I think Scott, to your the answer to the question, I already I haven't been that pissed at Daboll as far as his decision making. I don't think.
No, and it kind of goes back to similar to the first question from Mike Scott. In my opinion, it's like nobody ever kind of looks at this thing, right? So year 1, Daboll's making decisions, and man, okay, they seem to pay off. Well, he's got Daniel Jones under center and Saquon Barkley in the backfield. Yeah, a lot of things are going to work out okay if you've got the talent. The offensive line played decent that year. Last year he's making the exact same decisions, but Tony DeVito and Tyrod Taylor and whoever we have throwing back there at running back, that's completely different. Yeah. And to Daboll's credit, I don't think he changed his decision making. I think he made the same calls. Maybe he should have changed, but I think that might be more of a talent versus coaching thing. I don't think Daboll changed the decisions that he made.
Yeah,
decisions are always right if you win. That's
exactly. And then he also asked the question of Novak: will the Dick still be called the Dick if he gets off to a great start? And my first reaction here is that the Dick has been called the Dick on this podcast for the last 5 years just because
before
he's
he was
a
Dick.
Dick.
Yeah.
I mean, he's always going to be the Dick.
No doubt.
But I will say this: if he can win I'm saying me, a Super Bowl, I will never call him the Dick again. And I will wear an Aaron Rodgers jersey to every Jet game for the rest of my life. I promise to that. So, but yes, he's going to be he's the Dick until he proves otherwise. But so yeah,
he's the Dick until he becomes my Dick, right? Novak.
Well, now that you say it that way, Mike, yes, until he's my Dick.
Yeah.
Yes, he will be the Dick.
Yeah. Right. Instead of the Dick, he's my Dick. Is that right?
Yeah.
Novak? Yeah. That's apropos there, Mike. Well done.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
We'll stick with it.
So actually, Peacock starts with a Jets question too. So Peacock is asking, and I've heard this too. He said he's hearing a lot with the beats about there being bad team chemistry with the Jets.
Yeah.
And, a lot of the chatter there is that, players aren't getting along with one another and things like that. So he's asking, does chemistry matter? Or does talent trump bad chemistry? And it's probably a giant question for Giants too, but specifically he's talking about the Jets.
That's a really good question. I think the chemistry does matter, but if they win a few games and go on a winning streak, all of a sudden chemistry will be a hell of a lot better. Like they're a downtrodden, beaten down organization, have been terrible for years, and chemistry probably isn't great right now. You've got a lot of contract issues going on. You've got the Dick who, basically is the GM. That's a problem. But if they are 5-2, that chemistry thing will go right out the fucking door.
Yeah. Agreed.
I know we're going to talk about it as it comes up here. He asks another question and it'll lead into the Giants top 100. But one of the things I've really latched onto as they were going to the Giants top 100 players is the Giants players to a man talk about the Giants organization being great, but they also talk about, especially those Super Bowl teams, they say what happened there was we had a cohesive and unified locker room. And they talk about how everyone was on the same page getting to the next step. My question always, and I don't think there's an answer to this because I don't even know if the players on those teams can answer this, is that the answer because they won, or is that the answer because it was true? Like, does that happen and you don't win? So I'm sort of with you, Novak. I mean, I love the fact that there's team chemistry there, and the Giants players to a man say that's what set them apart when they won versus when they didn't win.
Right.
But how do you? Yeah. There's no formula to achieve that, and that's the toughest part about sports.
You can't build it, and if you don't never hear of a team that just sucks for 4 years in a row, but everyone talks about how great the team chemistry is. It's going to fall apart no matter how good it is if you're not winning, and conversely, it can come from out of nowhere if you just start winning. It's like a chicken and the egg question, but I think my answer is just win games.
Yeah,
chemistry will come.
Yep.
Yeah. So Peacock also asks, is Dable? He asked a variation of this question a lot of times, but he says, is Dable and Shane done if they don't make the playoffs? And if they don't make the playoffs, what does keep them here? And I will say this. I think Dable and Shane are not necessarily tied to a playoff run. And I think as long as the team does not completely collapse and there's a ton of turmoil and locker room backlash, they will stay. I don't know how many wins that is. I mean, is that 5? Is that 6? Is that 7? I don't think that really matters. I think what the true test will be is if they're a 5-win team, they're getting rid of Daniel Jones and they're moving on with their quarterback. And I think that's what will happen before those two guys get in replace. I do think in this case with the Giants that both Dable and Shane will stay around to be able to see who their quarterback is. That's my personal not my personal preference, although it is too, but it's my personal opinion.
I'll chime in, Scott. So I saw the NFL ranking, the NFL coach hot seat rankings entering week 1, and it's the first time that I've seen Daboll made the list. He's now 1 being 5 being less hot seat, 1 being the hottest, and Daboll was number 5. And it starts with saying the Giants aren't expected to be good this year, and it goes on to talk about just some of the success tied to Daniel Jones, blah blah blah. But going into it's New York, of course they reference that bullshit. But the Giants, they have to can, like you said, if 4 or 5 wins, I certainly can't stomach that. So he's on. So he made this particular ranking in hot seat, and if you guys bear with me just on the last, Sirianni number 4. 3 is Dennis Allen with the Saints. I don't know why he's that high. I had no idea. I didn't care to read that. And then our man Salah, number 2. Number 2. And can you guys guess number 1? Think about the team. Was that Novak?
Who's on the hot seat number 1?
Yeah, the hottest hot seat.
Oh, McCarthy.
Yeah, of course. Mike McCarthy in Dallas,
really?
Of course. Yeah, well, it's Dallas, and, they haven't won since 95. So Peacock knows that.
Dallas coaching is – you're always on the hot seat.
Yeah, exactly.
That, like the Panthers. I'd put the Panthers guy on that list before Dave. Probably.
But here we are, guys. So both our guys, 5, respectively 5 and number 2, both our coaches are on the hot seat.
I'm surprised Peterson's not on there, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Just because if Jacksonville doesn't make the playoffs, is Peterson gone? But
I really agree with your statement there. I mean, I think people's memory is so short. I mean, Dable took over this team with a shit roster and made the playoffs. And then the next year,
coach of the year.
Everyone, coach of the year, right? First year. Now, 1 year removed from coach of the year, he's number 5 on a hot seat after playing 1 season with everybody hurt, the entire team basically hurt. I just don't think it makes sense. I really don't. And to Scott's point too, I don't think I don't think either one of their jobs is tied to Daniel Jones. And I think they've made that clear. I mean, Shane has pulled no punches about, look, if we were up there, if we could get up there, we were going to get up there.
Yeah.
But they couldn't. They couldn't get up there to take a quarterback. So they got Jones now. It's there'll be no excuse for injury. There'll be if he doesn't perform this year, he'll be out. I do think he's going to perform this year, actually. But if he doesn't, he'll be out and gone. The Giants will sell, cheat and steal, whatever they have to do to get up high enough to take the quarterback they want. And then they're tied to that guy. So I think they're around for a while.
Did I hear correctly, guys, that Daboll's taking over all the play calling?
The play calling.
Yes.
That's what I've heard. Yep.
Yeah.
Which to Novak's question from a few pods ago, what's Kafka's rule? We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know what Kafka's doing. So we do have the final question from Peacock, and this is a good one. We've talked about our opponents' Mount Rushmore, but Peacock wants to know if we talk about our Giants and Jets Mount Rushmore, what is it? So I'll start with Novak. What is the Jets Mount Rushmore if you're looking at your all-time favorite Jets?
I would say it's pretty easy. You got to put Namath, Klecko, Revis, and probably Don Maynard, I guess I would put on there. I guess that's a hard. That's a gut. What I would say.
Is Mount Rushmore 4 or 5?
4.
It's 4.
Yeah, that's why I went 4. Thank God. Phew.
Well, I was trying
I
to get
think
Don
Maynard. I don't know. Maybe Gastineau on there too. But no, those are the ones that jump to my mind.
Cardone.
Yeah, I'm looking at. So obviously, I got to go quarterbacks. I mean, this is our pro Mount Rushmore, our favorite Giants, right? So Eli, Sims, got to throw LT in there. I mean, I'm going with the obvious ones, and I'm probably going to take maybe one of Hisman's here. Look, for some reason, it's hard to keep Bavaro off of that. I just love the guy. Going back to the old, I was thinking of some of the, the Strahan teams, but I got to go back to the Parcells era. And yeah, so 3 of my 4 are the Parcells era with Bavaro, LT, Sims, and Eli.
So we just had the final list of the Giants' top 100, and the top 5 was a little bit surprising to me. So the number 1 was LT, which we can all relate to. Number 2 was Rosie Brown.
Yeah.
Number 3 was Mel Hine. Number 4 was Frank Gifford, and number 5 was Michael Strahan. So if I look at my Mount Rushmore of what I knew, because I never got to see Strahan, or I never got to see Gifford, Mel Hine, or Roosevelt Brown play, LT would be in the first position for me. I mentioned that during the podcast when we were live. I would put Strahan in there. I'm going to go off the board a bit here because I'm starting to get behind this movement to get Carl Banks in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, Carl Banks is that number 3 guy, just because I have to look back at the 80s and how dominant we were. And then my 4th is Eli. So I have 2 modern and 2 in the 80s, basically.
I was thinking Banks. I was thinking Banks and Carson as my other guys. They'd be right there.
I love Carson too. I love Brad Van Pelt. There's so many guys I love, but when I look at a guy, to me who got shafted simply because he played in an era with LT and maybe even Carson, Banks is that guy.
Yeah.
Whereas with the Bears, that was a strength for some of those guys. They played on these great teams. Yeah. They all need to be in the Hall.
Yeah, the whole Bears defense. Yeah. The thing about Banks to me is, and I watch all the Super Bowls about twice a year. So I watch 8 Super Bowl games a year from the past, usually spread them out a little bit through the year. But the one thing you really take away from 21 is Banks easily could have been the MVP of that game if not for Sims going bananas. I mean, Banks was everywhere in that game. And Taylor, through no fault of his own, was almost invisible because he was getting like triple teamed on every play. But Banks took full advantage of that, and he was an animal. And I kind of liken that to, Eli got the MVP in his second Giants win. Man, Justin Tuck, he probably should have been the MVP of that game. But yeah, so I took mine, and after listening to you guys, I made a little rule for myself and changed it a couple times. So it has to be modern era, or I call the modern era back to the 80s. So I have to be someone I've seen play. And then it couldn't be anyone who's ever worn another uniform. I try to keep it to lifelong Giants. So I went Eli, Taylor, Sims, and Strahan for mine.
Can't argue.
I don't even know if I like Strahan that much. I just couldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, Banks to me was a better player than Strahan was, but Banks played for the Browns.
Real quick change. I would put Curtis Martin instead of Don Maynard. I totally forgot about him. So Curtis Martin's my fourth.
Curtis Martin, by the way, I think is one of the more underrated Jets.
He is.
Agreed. Yep. Yeah. So he's my fourth. Definitely. Totally
forgot.
Yeah.
Not by Bill Parcells, though.
No.
Bill Parcells loves that dude.
Yeah.
All right.
We have one more question.
Oh.
We had a question. I have to at least answer because I
told
her
we did
I would
talk about we talked about Taylor Swift,
but I'll have to at least call her out. My friend Shayna said, "Will you answer how many times Taylor Swift will be mentioned in the next 4 months?" And the fact that we have that synonymous and the NFL synonymous with her is fucking annoying. But I don't know how many times, but I will say I'm gonna see how long it takes for them to mention her on Thursday on the opening. I'm gonna give it 2 minutes and it'll be discussed or shown. So that's my.
Yeah, I think it's less than that, to be honest with you.
Is the rule we count by from between kickoffs, or are we counting pregame stuff too?
Because
that could get off the chain pretty quickly.
So that's the reverse 2-minute warning. Instead of the end of the game, it's the beginning of the game. Yeah. 2-minute warning in the beginning of the game. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys got anything else tonight?
No, man, I'm super excited.
Just ready to go.
Ready football. Bring
it to roll.
Yep. It is football time. Roll. It's finally that part of the season where it's week 1. Everyone has optimism. Guys, check out our website at angryfootballfans.com. Again, we want to thank Carolina Beer Temple and everyone who came out and supported us during the live podcast. We will be here every week, taped and in our glory. But it was great to do a live show, and like we said in the beginning, we're going to try and do this every year. We're going to fit 1 or 2 in. It would be great to do one while we're tailgating at a Giants game or a Jets game, but it's tough to find that. So,
Munich.
Munich.
Woohoo!
Brazil.
Going international.
So we'll see you next week, and hopefully we're both 1-0. We'll see. It'll be awesome.
Let's go.